What's up, everyone? My name is Don. I'm an anthropologist and history teacher. And at this very moment, I want you guys to meet what I think is the coolest tour guide in all of Guadalajara, Mexico. Let's get stuck in. All right, man. Can you tell me what's your name?
Anwar Tapia from GuadalajaraTourGuide.com.
Awesome, man. And, I know you're from Mexico, obviously, but your English is super good. How did you learn English, man?
It's because after I was born, our family is from Guadalajara, Jalisco. And after I was born, they immigrated to the United States and Texas in particular. And I finished school, everything over there. So that's why my English is good. And now I use it in tourism to give private tours in Guadalajara and the state of Jalisco.
Nice. One of the reasons why I like to call you the coolest tour guide in all of Guadalajara is because some of the services that you told me you provide, man, can you just in any way, however you want, list some of these services that are kind of unique to you that you do out here?
Well, I do different types of tourism in Guadalajara. Of course, I do the classical tours for tourists that are visiting Guadalajara, Centro Histórico, where we're at right now, architecture tours, cultural tours. But I also do relocation tours for foreigners that are thinking or planning on moving to Guadalajara and to live here. Those are ones I do. I also do medical tourism for people that are coming to get medical procedures done here in Guadalajara. And so I do a little bit of everything. I'll be helping out expats in here, expat community here in Guadalajara, and offering whatever services I can to them as they adjust to living here in Guadalajara.
I think you're in a very unique position to share your thoughts and opinions on something you just touched on and mentioned that I really want to dig a little deeper in, and that is that you said that you help foreigners, maybe Americans, Canadians, relocate to Guadalajara. Could you mention what some of those countries are? What countries are these people coming from in your experience?
Well, most of the people that I've given service to or provided services as they planned moving to Guadalajara to live here, most of them have been, majority would be United States, Canadian, and Europeans. And the Europeans, I would say more French and British and Italian and German. Those are the most dominant in the European continent that have come here, that I've got to know, and they end up moving here and we give them service.
Have you ever asked them what their reason is for coming and relocating to Guadalajara? Why do they not stay in their country? Why do they choose to leave their country? Do you have any thoughts on why do you think that is?
Well, there's two reasons they come here. The one is cost of living. Usually in their home countries or cities where they're from, the cost of living has been rising. And so a lot of them have jobs where they could work remotely from anywhere as long as they have a laptop and internet access. And so that's one reason. The second reason would be that I've noticed in my experience, they come because they work at a company and they end up relocating. The company's going to open offices in Mexico, and Guadalajara is the place where they're going to open office. So sometimes the wife or the husband, they've been chosen to move here to represent their company here and operations here in Mexico and Latin America.
I would love to hear your thoughts on the effects of these people coming to live in Guadalajara, because someone else that I interviewed recently, they were telling me how a lot of these foreigners, when they come to Guadalajara and other parts of Mexico too, because they bring the euro, the dollar, whatever, it kind of raises the cost of living. The 9 peso tacos now become 20 peso tacos or whatever. And I'm curious to know do you feel like that as well, or do you agree with that train of thought, or do you see it from another perspective because you work in that industry, in that world? So I'm kind of curious to know your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, there is an effect that comes when people, more high-income earners, move to a country that's still considered, third world or more poor. Most of these people come from Europe, North America, so their salaries, they're richer. They could afford more luxuries, and that's why they're coming here, to save money. And yes, there has risen the price. Some people would call it gentrification, But in my opinion, gentrification is a natural urban process. It's part of the dynamic of cities around the world, whether that's London, Paris, New York. Gentrification is an organic process that it's natural for a city. That's how cities grow. Cities are organic entities, and they grow, and parts decay. Some areas grow, some areas are forgotten. Except this phenomenon where foreigners are coming to Guadalajara or Querétaro or Chapala. Yeah, it kind of accelerates the process because they're coming here with dollars and euros. And yes, the rents have been going up in certain areas, but the areas where they're going up are predominantly historically here in Guadalajara. They're neighborhoods that have always been expensive, that have been owned by wealthy Mexican families. So here in Guadalajara, in my experience, I haven't seen like a poor neighborhood. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of rich foreigners, Europeans, Americans there. No, because they're usually staying in the neighborhoods that are already high priced. So most Mexicans were not living there, just the wealthy Mexican families, and that's usually where all the foreigners are buying homes or renting or living there. And so I don't think it hasn't had that much of effect. I'm not saying it will. What it will in the future, it might have effect on it if they start moving into more traditional poor neighborhoods and they start raising up the price and outpricing the locals. Then there might be a problem there. And from what I've been able to in my work, and I've seen that it's happened in certain states of Mexico. Mexico City has happened there, where some poor neighborhoods have been transformed by the influx of foreigners. Guadalajara, from what I've seen, like I said, most of them have been going to neighborhoods that are already they were high rent areas, so it hasn't really had an effect on people in their neighborhoods. But will it in the future? That's still to happen, and it could happen. So
okay, cool. Thank you for sharing that. If people do want to come to Guadalajara and use your services, do you have any like tips or advice for us to maybe be a better visitor in Mexico? Are there like any misconceptions you see that, oh man, a lot of foreigners do this, maybe you should do this instead? Like, don't leave a $20 tip when you go out to eat, because that's more than the meal, I don't know if you have any tips like that for foreigners coming here.
One of the mistakes that a lot of foreigners do when they come to Mexico is that in Mexico they're very cordial, and we have greetings, 3 kinds of greetings a day. In the morning it's buenos dias, in the afternoons buenas tardes, and at night is buenas noches. So when somebody tells you buenas tardes, it's customary to say buenas tardes back to them. When you don't do that, it's kind of like disrespectful. So a lot of foreigners don't do that, and I sometimes remind them, oh, you have to say buenas tardes or buenas noches when they tell you. When you get in your Uber and the driver tells you buenas noches, you're supposed to say buenas noches back to them. If you don't, he would take it as disrespect. They might forgive you because you're a foreigner, you're a visitor. They might, oh, you don't know, but it's still, if you say it back, that's a big first impressions count. And if you do that, I'm telling you, you have better interactions with the people here, the locals here.
I kind of want to add to what Anwar is saying, which is I've seen that in all of Latin America, and I've had that problem where as an American, I just walk in, I just sit down, and that's it, and I don't say anything. And I've heard people, because my Spanish is better now, I've heard people say mal educado, which and I'm sure you know what that means. Yeah, he's laughing. You see, he's laughing. What does that mean, man?
Yeah, like mal educado means like you don't have no society etiquette. There's no, like, you're not cultured. In other words, you're like a savage. Like, oh my God, he's not educated. You're not educated because you didn't say buenos dias back to the person. Yeah. And believe me, yeah, you have to say that. That's anywhere in the Republic of Mexico and in other Latin American countries too. We're very welcome, warm culture, and so that's something that I would tell you. You come to Guadalajara or anywhere in Mexico, and they tell you buenos dias, tell them buenos dias back. it doesn't matter how it comes out, don't worry. But if they see the effort, believe me, that's going to change the relationship, that interaction you have with that person.
Yeah, man, if you go to someone's house and there's 10 people, you better say buenos dias to every person of those 10 people before you sit down, or else someone is going to call you maleducado. but my last question for you, man, is this: because people come to you for touristic services, I know people that when they think of Mexico, they're scared. They have fear in their mind and hearts. You know, I've had family members tell me, you're crazy for moving to Mexico. Personally, being from California, I feel safer being in Guadalajara than being in my hometown of San Francisco, California. But that's my opinion. I know you've grown up in Texas. What are your thoughts from knowing both American culture and obviously knowing Mexican culture? How do you feel about the safety difference between these two countries and larger cities?
Yeah, well, safety is always a big issue when you travel, and it's like the first issue that should be no matter where you travel, of course. And Mexico has had and does have still a bad reputation of being one of the most dangerous countries in the world. Homicide rates skyrocketing, this kidnappings. It's reinforced by the media, especially the U.S. media. And then when you watch a movie about Mexico, then it's all about drug trafficking or human trafficking and corruption. And so that gives the big misperception that Mexico's just a dangerous, corrupt, drug trafficking country, that's all we do here. But the fact is that that's farther from the truth. Yes, we do have society problems. Yes, we have crime. Like any big city, Guadalajara is a big metropolitan, cosmopolitan city. And yeah, we have problems with crime and poverty and homelessness. And yes, there's murders here too, just like any other city. But overall, as a tourist, as a traveler, you don't have to worry about most of that stuff, because most of the crime here involving, whether it's organized crime or everything, is usually kept between the criminal groups. And if you're not involved in any of that stuff here, you're usually left alone. The only crime that a tourist or a visitor anywhere in Mexico would have to worry about is phone theft. That's the only thing where they snatch your phone. They see you dressed like a tourist with shorts and sandals and a hat. You know, you stand out, you're taking selfies, and you know, they're gonna be like, oh, he's not from here, let's get this dude. He got an iPhone, oh yeah, let's get that phone. That's the only thing that I tell a lot of the visitors here. And the tourists, when they say, what should I look out for? I like, that's it. You don't have to worry. Most of the time, they don't even do it at gunpoint. They just snatch it from you from a motorcycle. So in my opinion and in my experience working in tourism and with tourists, is that's the only crime you will have to worry about coming to it. If you're not doing nothing, you're not here doing nothing illegal or criminal, then you're not going to have to worry about none of that violence that's sensationalized in the news media and in Hollywood and everything like that about Mexico.
Cool, man. Well, again, one last time, if you guys, first of all, thank you for sharing everything. And if you guys really want to use the services by Anwar here, look down below in the description. You'll find all his links and information there. For those of you who don't want to scroll down, you can hear it. Anwar, where can they find you? What's the name of the website or name on Facebook?
I have a website called guadalajaratourguide.com. One word altogether, guadalajaratourguide.com. I'm also on Facebook as Guadalajara Tour Guide, on Instagram as Guadalajara MX Tour Guide, all one word. Also on TikTok, Guadalajara Tour Guide, and I also have a YouTube channel where I make videos about tourism here in Guadalajara called Guadalajara Tour Guide also.
Cool. Thanks, man. And I'll see you guys at the next one. All right. Check out where we are. Boom.